Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for tuning in today. I'm happy to be talking to you about coding languages and tools. But first, let me introduce myself quickly and Amsterdam Data Collective. I already did it a bit, but maybe you're only tuning in now. So my name is Henriette Claus. I studied econometrics in Rotterdam, and I started 2 years ago at Amsterdam Data Collective. And I'm currently living in London. Amsterdam Data Collective, a bit more about that. So we are a small consultancy company based in the Netherlands. Our data science projects are divided throughout 3 sectors, finance, public, and healthcare. It's a very fast growing company. So I started 2 years ago, and then we were with 12 people, and currently we're with 35. So we're growing very fast. And I think, yeah, that's also a bit representative for the whole sector because it's growing very fast. So I think that's very exciting to be working in this field. Today I'll be talking about to you for about 20 minutes about coding language and tools, which ones to learn. We have 3 elements. So first I'll be talking about, or I'll show you a video, a short walk through history. Then I will give you an overview of the current tools, which are there, and I will also reflect a bit back on the talk of Vienna. And then I will close with some future trends. But first, I would like to ask you a question. So what do you think that the technical skills are that you need to learn to work as a data scientist? You can state your answer in the chat. And then I will see if we touch upon them. Let me see if I can see the chat. Yes, so I see Python, SQL, and R, statistical coding, machine learning. Sounds very good. And I will see whether there are also tools which we won't mention in the talk. So let's go to the next thing. Here I have a small video. It's actually a short walk through history of the coding languages, which were popular in which times. So here you can see the popularity measured by how many people ask questions on Stack Overflow. And you see that C# was the most popular language when this video started, so in 2008. And here you see the popularity of the different languages measured on Stack Overflow. So you see that C# is the most popular language when this video began in 2008. And you see that Java is the second popular language. And you see that Python is coming up in the red bar. And also SQL is growing a bit over time. But you see that Java and JavaScript together with C# are the most popular languages. I think we're now around 2012. And then you see that Python is coming up and growing popularity. And you see also that there are new languages like Ruby, R, those are not gaining popularity very fast. Here we see Swift entering, which is also gaining popularity. And then we see, so we're now in 2016, and still JavaScript, Java, those are the most popular languages. But then we see actually it's something very interesting that Python is gaining popularity very fast. So it is growing. And you see also that, for example, R and Swift are getting more popular. And this is then the end state. So we see that, so this video stops unfortunately 2 years ago, but Python is, I think you could say that it's one of the most popular languages now. So then we'll go to an overview of the current tools. I got the chart from Vienna, which explains the different roles, and then I will go through these and explain which tools you could use for each of these roles. Something to say in advance is that each company uses different tools, so it really also depends on which company you are working in. But I will explain the most popular. let's start with analytics translation. So these are some tools to visualize the data. So we have Power BI and Tableau, and those are tools that are, for example, used in banks to visualize the data, to make dashboards. And I also put Excel there. I didn't really dare to actually, but I had to do it because many companies are still working with Excel. Especially some older companies with people who've been working there for 30 years and are really used to those tools. So Excel is actually still quite a popular tool to visualize data. And I would say that it's very handy to be very good in it, although I know there are way better tools to visualize data sometimes, but it can be easy to show people because they know the tool. Then we go to business analytics, and there I'm going more to the interactive dashboard. So I included next to Power BI and Tableau, also Python Dash and R Shiny. Of course, those are linked to Python and R, and you can make interactive dashboards with that. Then I'm going more to the data science, and I think that is also what was most mentioned in the chat. We have Python, R, MATLAB, and again, Excel, because it's still being used as a data science tool. R is actually a very popular language for medical research. MATLAB is, for example, used in many banks. And Python, I think it's used in more the startup companies that more fast growing companies, because it's all open source. So for example, banks are a bit more hesitant to the use of R of Python, and they use MATLAB because it's more safe. They think it's more safe, and yeah. And then we go to the data engineering, and I must say that I am a bit more on the right side myself, but I asked some colleagues which are very good on the left side. So we have SQL. Yeah, it's a very popular tool, and I think you could even put it in different buckets here. Hadoop is a very popular tool for data storages and processing large amounts of data. Spark the same. Docker is for app developers, and I will touch upon that app later, or the tool later. Then we have Django. Django is a high-level Python web framework. It's very clean and it has a pragmatic design. And its primary goal is to ease the creation of the very complex database-driven websites. So yeah, it's actually designed to make things more easy. And then we have Laravel framework. That's a custom software development tool. And that's, for example, very popular for integration with mail services. So you can easily make automized emails to several persons. Then we have Vue. Vue is a tool which is very good for building websites. But again, these are just some of the tools that you could use, and there are way more, I'm sure. Then we go to data architecture. I also included SQL there because, yeah, I think it's very commonly used there. Also Java to develop desktop applications, mobile applications. KNIME is, or I'm not sure if I'm even pronouncing it correctly, but it's a very modular data pipelining concept. So it's very modular in the setup, which is very good for agile way of working. And it's also good for use for machine learning much. And then we have Power Designer. I think Power Designer is a very good tool for data architecture because it's used to visualize your databases. So you can really easy make data lineages. So how does the data flow from part E to part B to part C? And there, I think Power Designer is very nice. And lastly, Azure. Azure is a Microsoft cloud computing service. And it's based on C# for analytics and data storage. And I think also Azure, but also other cloud computing services are also gaining in popularity. And then I have the data strategy. I don't really have any tools for that because data strategy, I think it's more need more managerial skills for that. There's not really a tool. You could maybe say PowerPoint to translate your knowledge, but there's not really a tool for that. Then I go to future trends as the last thing. We have 5 future trends. The first one is Java. Java, yeah, so as you've seen in the first video, Java is one of the most popular tools, and it still continues to dominate. So it's still one of the largest programming languages. So it's based on C++, but it's way more extensive. And if you're looking to work in the big tech companies, so for example, Amazon, Netflix, LinkedIn, all those frameworks are based on Java. So if you're interested to go work in a company like that, I think it's very, very good to learn that. And then we have Dockers as the next one. And as I already said, Dockers is for app developers, and it's for an agile way of working, very good. So what it does, it makes all the software packages into containers, also the very modular data concept, and all these containers together form the software or the tool. And therefore you can have one team working on one container, one team working on another container, one team working on another container, and then of course you have the overall vision. But yeah, that's very, I think, good and more popular becoming way of working. As a third, I have Python. Python is also, it's still gaining in popularity, I think. And what is the nice thing about Python is that it's all open source, as you, I think, all know. But that means that it's very fast growing in library. So everyone can write code. It's very easy to share code. And therefore, for machine learning and AI purposes, you have, yeah, I think lots of opportunities and pre-written code. So Python is very nice for that. The fourth trend is Swift. Swift is a programming language developed by Apple. It's completely open source. So they first had everything in Objective-C, and then they changed everything to Swift. And the goal of that was to make a more easy, very easy to interpret, intuitive language. And that has grown actually very fast. So it's very popular in the US. So I think if you want to work in the US, that could be very, you could very well learn it. It's not that popular in Europe yet, but I think it's gaining popularity very fast. And then the last one is DevOps. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the term, but I will explain it a bit. So DevOps stands for development and operations. And it's also sometimes called CI/CD, so continuous integration and continuous development. And the idea is that you work in very interactive feedback loops. So they call it the 8 loops, as you can see here. And you, so the idea is to build your whole software or tool in very small parts, and you go through this loop for each of the parts. So you plan a specific task, then you code it, then you build it, then you test it. And when you've tested it, you immediately release it, you deploy it, you operate it, and it's being monitored. And from the monitoring, you see, oh, hey, there's a thing which is not going right. You plan it, you code it, you build it, you test it, etc. And then you go like that interactively. So you could see that, for example, in an app. If you have on your phone, you each time get an update from each app. That's this way of working mostly. So it's very often combined with an agile or Scrum way of working. So that was it. The last note, I want to say that you can learn a new language faster than you think. So I myself am a consultant, and as a consultant means that you actually have to program in the language that your client uses. So for example, I've been at 4 different banks now, and all of them use a different language. And that means also that I learned 4 different languages in the past 2 years, which is very nice, I think. But you also must, think for yourself. It's not that if I want to learn Python, I cannot learn R, because I have been using MATLAB during my whole studies. And then I did an internship where I had to do R, and within 3 months you can actually change and learn it, because if you understand the basics and if you understand how things work, then you can easily learn a new language. So that's my last thing that I wanted to say. Thank you all for your attention. I don't know if there are any questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Henriette. That was very clarifying, and it's really great to see that there is such an active chat as well going on. People put even more coding languages there, like SAS and Julia and Snowflake, and there was a discussion about Azure versus AWS. So I think that's really great. If you can stay along, maybe to join in a little bit on the chats, that would be great. But thank you for now. And we do have some questions from the audience for you as well, of which I'll pick a few. One is from Gabriella. What is the importance of having software engineering skills as a data scientist as well? We talk now most about coding skills, but what do you think of that? Like having clean code, testing, is that something that you encounter in your work?
Yes, definitely. So if you're working in a team, I think it's very important. For example, you already mentioned clean code. It's very important to do that, because you're not only making it for yourself, you're making it for the company. So you always have to leave something that is very easy to understand for someone else also. So yeah, I must say that I think it's very important.
All right. One other question. So you talked about Python and the importance of Python, right? And that it still is a huge trend. And people are wondering, since you're working in the Netherlands, do you see that people work remotely on Python as Python programmers? So Python developers from abroad?
Yes, definitely. I think actually being a data scientist or software engineer is one of the jobs that is most suited to work from home, because you can really dive into your coding and you won't get distracted that much. And so, for example, when we went to the office, it was sometimes very quiet, but if people were talking, you were distracted very easily. So I think, yes, people working from home much with it. And I think also, yeah, Python, every company where they use Python and where they're working from home now, there are definitely many people working from